Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to PAX East 2018. With me, I have Derek Bradley. He's the creative director over this wonderful game called Ashen. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you.
All right, you having a good show so far?
Excellent, so busy.
Yeah, very busy for all of us. We've had quite a busy schedule of streams, and we're going to have some more tomorrow and Sunday, but today we're going to talk about Ashen. It is a action RPG. Would it be correct to say hardcore RPG?
I'm not too sure, yeah. I mean, like, it's definitely like an action RPG for people who like getting in the thick of combat, but there's a whole bunch of like other stuff too. It's an open world game.
Yeah.
So there's a nice sort of like balance between like dungeon crawling and fighting really tough things, and then coming out into this like big expansive open world with like, you know, giants flying through the sky, having like those majestic moments. So there's this sort of balance between hardcore and like experience, I guess you could say, yeah.
Gotcha, and it's going to be tough. From what I've seen, it looks like a pretty difficult game to play, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you get stuck alone, it kind of is, but multiplayer is a big thing.
Okay.
So people will be helping you out all the time. So there's also a balance between that, I guess you could say, where if you go it alone and you want that tough experience, that's completely open to you.
Yeah.
At the same time, if you're struggling, quite often someone else will just come along and help you out.
Yeah, a lot of people look for multiplayer in these types of games.
Sure.
And a lot of people approach it very differently. From my understanding, you guys approach it your own unique way too, right?
Yeah, so we've got a passive multiplayer system. Basically, you can just run around the world and people will run in and out of your world, sort of, and you'll be running in and out of theirs, technically speaking. And you might just kind of run past each other and not be interested in playing together. You might run past each other and decide, hey, we want to do something together, and then you just kind of stay together. If you run too far apart, you'll just disconnect, and it'll look for another appropriate person to hook you up with, so yeah.
So if I'm playing and I'm completely stinking up the show, I might run past you. You can help me out.
Yeah.
You can have a big dev on your name, right? So I know it's you. Give me some assistance and walk me through.
If I just see you like getting chased by like 10 dogs or something,
yeah. Is there any kind of like active multiplayer, like, you know, getting friends to jump in with you?
Yeah, so you can definitely like choose to get your friends to be the people that'll match with you. Essentially, so as I say, it's passive multiplayer, so there's no lobby or anything like that.
Right.
But you can kind of set it up so only your friends will be the ones who can pop in and out of your world.
Okay, I understand. So those, when you set it up that way, they might be the people you walk past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Understood. So how long has Ashen been in development?
Ashen has been in development since the end of 2013. What does that make it now? I feel it's a bit over 4 years.
Five years?
Yeah,
5 years?
nearly 5.
Yeah, and you started off with just a couple people, right?
Yeah, we started off with a couple of ex-Weta Digital guys, myself and the other director of the company. But you know, we quickly grew, and the team's pretty diverse now. We've got a much bigger team. But yeah, definitely humble beginnings and a lot of passion.
And you've grown quite a bit.
Absolutely, yeah. We're sort of at a team of 38, I think, now, in-house.
Okay.
Yeah.
I assume with that, the ambition for the game has grown significantly.
Yeah, you know, it's an interesting thing that you need to do as an indie, I guess, where we started off with, you know, say only 3 of us could do this, because nobody, like, decides to publish us or anything like that. And we wanted to make a game because we love games, and that's the reason that we're doing it.
Of course.
It's like, you have this giant vision, but we knew we could just do this little slice and it would still be good. When we got up to a team of 15, we were like, okay, well, we could go halfway for sure, and that'd be a great game. We were lucky enough that we've got all the funding we need. We can do the whole vision that we had right from the start, and lucky enough to have Annapurna Interactive in our corner, and have them kind of jump on board and like really buy off on that vision, and be really supportive and happy to kind of push it through.
So the Ashen that's coming, this is the Ashen that you've envisioned. The full picture of everything.
Absolutely. There's very little compromise, which is...
That's a good thing.
I didn't expect that. To be honest, I don't think you can expect that.
It's got to be a pleasant surprise, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, digging into the combat, everybody wants to know about the combat. What kind of weapons are we going to be working with in Ashen?
An interesting thing about Ashen is there are no swords.
No swords? Why no swords?
No swords. Because it was just something, it's almost like a creative limitation. It's a way to like force your team and your designers to use like different patterns, because we've got axes, clubs, spears, things like that, but they sort of inherently move a little bit differently to a sword.
Right.
And so it makes your team like not take things for granted and like try and, both from a narrative standpoint of like story, why there are no swords, like, you know, that it's a bit of a harsh world and using that much metal to make one item is a bit frivolous.
Oh,
but
valid. Very true.
At the same time as like, you know, axes just swing differently, and so your combat designers have to think about the whole like rhythm of like how people jump into combat, jump out of combat, what an axe does or what a spear does, as opposed to the tried and true methods of the sword.
That's kind of an interesting angle to take. It's kind of testing the designers for the game and also testing the players. You're not going to come in with that very safe approach, just take sword and shield.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are there any shields, any kind of defensive things to be, mindful of?
There definitely are shields, so you can use those. And like using an axe with a shield's a pretty like historic thing. Like a lot of cultures have done that. So yeah, we had a lot of really nice reference to draw on anyway. But yeah.
How much freedom are players going to have with those weapons? Like, do you collect a bunch and just switch between them on the fly, or you kind of dedicate yourself to one as you find them?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's absolutely your choice. All of the weapons that we have can technically be upgraded via crafting to be the same power rating as each other. So it's more about, do I like the feel of this weapon? Do I like the look of it? Do I like the move set, or just how it moves me around, Some weapons will like do a hit and make you do a backflip, and if you like that kind of evasive play, whereas others will just do like a giant double swing and kind of do more of a berserker kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of more down to player style.
Okay, cool. So correct me if I'm wrong, but Ashen is about characters that are trying to find a home. Yeah,
I mean, like a really big thing about Ashen is the town. And the town is like a living, breathing thing, really. As you complete quests or find different NPCs out in the world, they'll join your town and kind of just sit next to the campfire. And as you do more of their quests, they'll start building a house, offering you crafting, doing all that kind of stuff. The interesting thing with multiplayer that feeds into this is that when you see someone else run past you out in the world, they actually role-play one of your townsfolk, so they don't look like another player.
They look like someone part of your village, of your area.
Yeah, so
that's pretty cool.
And it'll coincide with what quest you're on. So if you're on a quest for example, in our demo today on the show floor, people are playing with our treasure hunter themed NPC, and so they see this guy pop in and out of their worlds, but it's actually the player sitting right next to them. But when you're on his quests, a treasure hunter will pop into your world, but he'll be controlled by another player. So there's this really genuine sense of playing with a living, breathing person.
That is pretty cool.
At the same time as them feeding into your like attachment to your town and the experiences you had with them out in the world, you kind of bring back to them when you're in the town getting a quest from them or doing that sort of stuff, yeah.
Got it, okay. So it's open world, you have this area that you're going to be building on. So what if I step out there, I get pretty far, I've got a nice little inventory, and then I die? What happens from that point? What's the next step?
When you die, you do lose all of your currency that you're holding on you.
All of it's gone?
All of it's gone, but you can go get it back.
Okay,
So, I mean, generally our combat is really high risk. It's sort of high risk, high reward combat, which, it's really nice, but at the same time it means that getting back to that currency can be quite a thing. It's not too bad though, really. Okay. I mean, like, you'll start back at your last checkpoint and you'll have to work your way back there. Okay,
and to backtrack to the multiplayer, is it only 2 people at a time can like stick together?
Yeah, so it's only 2 people at a time, which is quite nice. I mean, the real purpose for that was to make sure that it's like a one-on-one experience,
right?
Which we drew a lot of inspiration from games like Journey. I mean, they even say themselves that they chose to do the 2-player experience because with 3 players, there's a sense of like 2 players might really connect.
The dynamic
or like,
changes completely.
Yeah, the third person might feel a bit left out, or just there's a different dynamic where we wanted people to really relate to their town and to really like buy into the whole relationship. And to do that, it's like giving that one-on-one, letting people decide if they want to hang together or not, and if they don't, find somebody else, Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I also hear that there's some big monsters and there's some big bosses.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does that go? Are y'all showing any on the floor right now?
We are showing one giant on the show floor, yeah. She's a giant mermaid named Geffen, and she's sort of like one of the oldest creatures in the world. But yeah, you do get to see her on the show floor.
Got it. And there's no really, like, when the game comes out, there's no really first boss or anything because it's open world. You never know where a player's going to go first. So is there any particular strategy to scaling the different areas, or each one of them have different difficulty levels?
I mean, technically speaking, the dream that we have is that you can
take them out no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, like, and you should be able, like, there are very few things that you have to do. There are a couple to progress the story, but the dream is sort of that even with like a level 1 weapon, you could technically finish the game. You don't require like the sword of fire with like lightning coming off of it to go and like even be able to do any damage to the final boss.
Right.
So players who are extremely highly skilled can set themselves those kind of limitations and try and beat the game at the same time, even with a really low-level weapon.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. Have you have you released the amount of weapons total yet?
That's a really good question. we were just adding some weapons last week. I'm trying to think about how many they were.
Still kind of experimenting a little bit?
Yeah, sometimes it just comes down to, like, you know, our narrative designers will come around with like a little bit more story or something. We're like,
right.
we want weapons that represent that, because a big part of our storytelling is when players drill down into the descriptions of the weapons, they get to read a little bit, like little nuggets of truth about the world and stuff. So even that aspect of it's really important.
Gotcha. So what platforms is Ashen going to be on?
It's going to be on Windows 10 and Xbox.
Okay. And how soon can we expect Ashen?
Ashen should be out this year, so Q3, Q4.
Okay, gotcha. Anything else you want to share about the game?
Not really. You know, I think we've sort of covered it. You know, we've gone through the open world, we've gone through the passive multiplayer and the stamina-based high-risk combat. Are probably the biggest things that people need to know about it.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for appearing on the stream. It's been a pleasure. Ashen seems really awesome. I'm kind of sucky at those types of games. But I love the co-op aspect of it and the passive co-op.
Yeah.
I've experienced things like that, of course, in the Souls franchise. Are you prepared for those comparisons to be coming in?
Yeah, no, you know, I have a lot of respect for the Souls franchise. I love the games myself, so like that we get compared at all is an honor to me. So yeah. I'm really happy with that.
Gotcha. Have you played any of the kind of like not quite Souls, the games like The Surge and stuff like that?
I haven't actually. It's kind of one of those problems with game development, is that you spend so much time developing.
You gotta get away from it.
Yeah, I still do play Dark Souls on occasion though.
Okay.
It's kind of like a thing I keep going back to, but yeah.
What do you do then? When you're not playing your games, what do you do? What do you do with your free time?
With my free time, I go to the gym.
Yeah?
Yeah, I find that it's almost like a meditative experience, which is quite good.
I can understand that. It's kind of like escape from the world, close everything off. I don't know if you do headphones or anything like that, but I definitely do.
You put your headphones on and you just kind of like, you have one job to do, which is kind of good.
Well, last thing, so what's your weapon of choice so far? You're still experimenting with the weapons in the game, but what's your weapon of choice?
I've kind of got a couple that I really like. We've got one that's kind of like, there are these weird kind of skeleton zombie-like creatures in the world, and we've got a weapon kind of themed in their style, but because they're so crazy, when the player plays it, we still try to keep some of that feel, so it gives you this like sort of drunken master kind of vibe about how your player plays. So I really like that one, just purely because of the style of it. Gotcha.
You know what? That reminds me, what inspired the art design for it? Because it's very minimalist, kind of like the blank faces, kind of with all the characters.
Yeah.
What inspired that design?
It's an interesting thing, because I think a lot of games, it's almost like the main character gets designed, and then the world and the story builds around it.
Okay.
Whereas we went in the opposite direction. We started making environment art and like just trying to find a place that players want to spend time in, and from that we kind of boiled down into character. And the blank faces was partly a reaction to not really wanting players to judge each other on face value, and having them kind of see each other and just kind of genuinely react to each other. But it was also, like a reaction to us having come from environment work and really focusing on what that world is, and you know, the intricacies of like, you know, eyes blinking and stuff like that wasn't as like,
throws things off.
It wasn't as high on our list. Yeah, it was more important to just have something that sat well with the art style that we'd achieved for the environment. Yeah.
Got it. Is there any kind of lore that players are going to be learning about in this world, or is it kind of build your own story?
There's definitely a lot of lore. I mean, when you start the game, there's no sun at all, and there's a giant explosion, and for the first time in as long as people can remember, light comes into the world again, and so you're essentially trying to protect that light. Is the main objective? The main objective, yeah.
All right, cool. I can't wait to see how that unfolds. But thank you once again for coming on the stream.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate it. This is Shacknews at PAX East 2018. We've got, I think, one more stream coming. Everybody stay tuned. No more streams? I think this is our last one. All right. Cool. Well, this is our last stream for the day. Tune in tomorrow, and we'll see you next time.